No, they already took the biggest yacht in the world and another.
Putin's yacht is still sitting in Russia.
No, it's somewhere else.
No, it's in Russia.
It's in Russia.
In a military base.
Oh, okay, well, I guess we'll have to get that one.
I don't think so.
I heard there was one guy who had a yacht, one of these Ogulaks, and he had a Ukrainian chief engineer who went into the engine room, and I
And
guess
disabled the yacht.
no, he started whatever he did, like what is it, bilge pumps on a right
Yeah.
that's supposed to let water
Oh,
in.
they sunk it?
He tried sinking the
Oh,
yacht.
that's cool.
I was reading an article where they're concerned that a lot of oligarchs are Jewish.
They are Jewish.
Yeah,
Well, and that by freezing their accounts, it's going to cause a number of receivers and other Muslims to not get the donations they've been giving.
They don't give that much.
well, you'd be surprised. I have a list.
Some of them do. I didn't ask,
Where was the article?
I believe it was in like the Jewish press.
I didn't
Immediately,
right away.
immediately suspect.
I
No,
know the Jewish press. is
No,
not
JTA had an article similar. Hillel International was one. There were a couple of others. Okay, I'm going to start with our learning sponsors, and then hopefully the rest of the crew will be up and on board, okay? All right. A Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Garelick in memory of Malcolm Perlman and Philip Mann and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, in the memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pestel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Siddell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Asna bat Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Zecher Nishmat Simcha Melech ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. A Month of Learning by Lydia and Abe Krause's many friends in honor of their 50th anniversary. Mel and Haran Haller in memory of his mother, Fega Bas Yaakov. B. Pizer in memory of her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. Josh and Carol Sanborn in memory of her parents, his parents, Chiana bat Aryeh and Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch. Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her father, Yaakov ben Yosef. A Week of Learning by Charlie Galfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Charlie's wife and Sam's sister, Menucha Sarah bat Yechiel Michal, and in memory of Sam's mother and Charlie's mother-in-law, Sissel bat Yehoshua. Evelyn and Isaac Blackhor in memory of her mother, Pero Rivka bat Harav Menachem Mendel. Leonie Meiselman in memory of her husband, Nissen Yitzchak ben Shlomo Zalman. Today is the 4th, and we have a Day of Learning Plus Torah Fund by Barbara Hollander in memory of her father, Shmuel Shlomo ben Yehuda Baruch. Okay, from last week, we had a Day of Learning by Rabbi Moshe Kranzler in memory of his brother Gershon ben Yerachmiel. Also from this past week, a Day of Learning by Rabbi Moshe Kranzler in memory of his grandson, Ilan Teir ben Aharon Zev. For Shabbos, we have a Day of Learning by Carol and Josh Sanborn in honor of Giselle Lazarowitz, Phil Solomon, Karen Green, in appreciation for their hard work in making the dinner in our honor so special. Also for Shabbos, Ruth and Ed Goldberg, a day of learning in memory of her father, David Tzvi ben Meshulam. And that is it for today. Shemas have an aliyah, cranker fear velti yeshir Shem Matzliah, and l'chol b'nei Israel a good gebench year. We also wish refuah shlema to Mel, okay, and to Gert. What's anybody? Gertman from Rexford. I forget his first name.
What's his last name?
Gertman. Gertman, Gertman. Yeah, his wife passed away last year. Okay, he had an emergency appendectomy yesterday. Okay, that's Mr. Gertman. I forget his first name. Okay. All right, let's see what we can cover today. I'm suggesting we are on, all right, Kaf Bet Amud Beis, about 3 lines from the bottom. Okay. Okay. Well, it's an interesting situation. Today's a lot of agadita, but doesn't mean that it's simple. Okay. So what happens? Okay. If you walk around with your shoelaces untied, you could have trip, or you could have a zav step on them. Okay, as we're going, you don't like that one, or comparison. Okay, so here the situation is going to be somewhat similar. Instead of stepping on the shoelaces, a zav steps on the person's sandal strap. Okay, yeah, exactly the same thing, right? So what's going to happen?
Nobody's shot.
What?
Nobody actually stepped.
No, it fell off his sandal.
In any case,
His saddle.
We'll see it inside.
let's look inside. Okay, so we're as I said, we're looking at the Kaf Beis, Amud Beis, the following. 3rd line from the bottom. Okay, Hanoseyat Midras, Noseyat Truma Avalo et Kodesh. One who carries something like a piece of cloth or whatever that has been treaded on by a zav may carry truma, but may not carry kodesh at the same time. Okay, so the Gemara now says kodesh, ma'atam alo. What's the reason kodesh it's not permitted? Mishum ma'aseh shahaya, because of an incident that occurred. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, and Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Ma'aseh be'achad shaya ma'avir chavit shel yayin kodesh mimakom lamakom. There was once an incident where a individual was carrying or moving a large jug of wine that was on a kodesh level of sanctity from one place to another. And here we get to Kaf Gimel. What happened? Sorry. V'nifsaka ritzu'ah shel sandalo. And the strap of his sandal broke, and it was stepped upon by a zav. Okay?
Didn't say it broke.
It broke off. Right?
Nifsaka. Okay, broke.
This is a chashash. It may not or may or may not have actually.
That's Nifsaka ritzu'ah shel sandalo. Okay, Midras Hazav Haita, okay, says Rashi, right? V'natla biyado, and he picked it up. Umitoch kach nafla la'avir hachavit. That's what Rashi says. Okay, all right. So v'natla, he picked it up. V'hinicha al pi hachavit, and he put it on the edge of the earthenware jug that was carrying this kodesh level wine. Okay, all right. So what happened? V'nafla la'avir hachavit, and it fell within the inner area of the.
Apparently, yeah.
It would appear, okay, that was the case. Now, it doesn't say necessarily that it fell in per se, doesn't have to fall in, but in other words, that since, right, it was, right, extended into the airspace of the jug, okay? So what happens,
Make it a no-fly zone.
right? Vinit mate, okay, and therefore the jug, we said therefore the inside, everything inside the jug, implying this Kodesh wine, now becomes Tameh, right? Ba'ota sha'a amru, and at that same time, therefore they said, Hanoseyat hamidras, noseyat hatruma, one who carries something that has been stomped on by a zav, okay? What happens? May carry truma, aval lo et kodesh, but not kodesh, not something of a kodesh level, okay? Now, ihachi says the Gemara, truma nami. If that's the case, shouldn't this apply to truma as well? Okay. Hamani, according to whom? Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya. It's according to Rabbi Chananya ben Akav. Okay. Da'amar, who said, Lo asru ela biyardain ubesfina ukamase shahaya. They did not prohibit this except in regards to the Jordan River and on a boat and as the incident that occurred.
It's a new story.
Okay, so what happened? So the Gemara now asks, Maihi, what was this? The Tanya, as we're taught in the Bright. Lo yisa adam me chatat ve'efer chatat. A person should not carry, right, the chatas water, the water that's going to be used ultimately for purification, or the ashes connected with the afar. In other words, maybe those haven't been mixed yet. Okay, we don't know. V'ya'aviram biyardeinu basfina, and transmit them, okay, on the Jordan River and by boat. V'lo ya'amod, sorry, v'lo ya'amod b'tzad zeh v'yizrakem l'tzad acher, and he shouldn't stand on one side and throw it, toss it to the other side. V'lo yasitem al pnei hamayim, and he can't float them across the water. V'lo yirkav al gabe behema, and he can't ride, carrying these items, can't ride on an animal, okay,
Across the
through the water, okay? V'lo al gabe chavero, nor can he ride on the shoulders, let's say, of another person, okay? Ela im kain hayu raglav nogot b'karka, unless his feet, okay, unless they were crossing and his feet were able to touch the land on the bottom, okay?
Why is that better?
Okay, we're gonna see, maybe the Gemara is gonna answer.
It was Steve on my shoulders.
Okay, aval ma'avirin al gabe hagesher, but he may bring it across by means of a bridge. Ve'eno choshesh achar hayarden. Okay, and he doesn't have to suspect, doesn't have to be worried. Echad hayarden ve'echad sha'ar hanaharot. And the same applies to whether it's the Jordan or whether it's other rivers. Okay. Rabbi Chananya ben Akavya Omer, what does he add? Lo asru ela biyardain ubasfina u'kamaaseh shahai. They did not forbid this except in regards to the Jordan and in regards to a boat and in regards to as the incident occurred. Okay. So the Gemara says further, "My Maaseh Shahaya." So what then was this incident? The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, he says as follows: Maaseh ba'adam echad, a situation, an incident with a particular person. Shaya ma'avir mei chatat va'efer chatat, that was transporting the chatas water and the ashes for the chatas. Biyardeinu basfina, on the Jordan and in a boat. V'nimtza kazayas meis techuv b'karka'ata shel sfina, and they found a very small piece, the size of a kazayas of a corpse, okay, among the boards of the boat, okay? All right. Now remember, they used to use these flat bottom boats, okay? Not deep hulls, but they were almost like a little,
It doesn't really matter.
okay, but the point is they found among the boards of whatever it was, they found a piece of a corpse there. Ba'ota sha'a amru, at the same time they said, Lo yisa dam mechatat ve'efer chatat ve'ya'avirem biyadenu basfina. That a person then will not transport the chatas water or the ashes for the chatas and bring them on the Jordan and on a boat. So now the question, having brought to our attention what the particular incident was, therefore there was a question. So they asked, okay, in our two stories, sandal tameh, okay, that the shoe then was tameh. Sandal tahor mahu, if it was a, okay, if it was a pure, perfectly good sandal, what about that? Chavit petucha, okay, we said there that the jug, the earthenware jug was open. Chavit stuma mahu, if the jug had been closed, what about that situation? Avar v'nasa mahu, okay, if he carried it, brought it, and was carrying it, what about that? Okay, Rabbi Ilah Amar, he says as follows: Im avar v'nasa tameh, if he transported it and carried it, it would be tameh. Rabbi Zera Amar avar v'nasa tahor, and Rabbi Zera disagrees and says if in that case they crossed over the river, right? Okay, in other words, what happens if even though the rabbi said one is not supposed to do this, and they nevertheless went ahead and did it, in other words, transported that, is he over or not? The answer, according to Rabbi Ilah, is yes. According to Rabbi Zera, the answer is it's still tahor. Okay, it's still okay.
Even though it really did not come in contact.
Correct.
This is part of the gezerah that it makes it.
Right. Okay. Okay. Let's go on. Kelim hanigmarim b'tahara. Our Mishnah referred to utensils that were completed and in a state of being tahor, pure. Okay. Now, the first question we should ask is, who made the utensils? So that's where the Gemara is taking us. The Gamrinhu, man, who finished it? Who? Asks the Gemara. Ilema de Gamrinhu chaver. If we say that these utensils were finished, completed by a person whose status was that of a chaver, in other words, he's meticulous about regarding tumantara, right? If that's the case, lama lahot tefillah. Why then would we need to say that they would need to be immersed? Because they told us that was what was being done. Elad de gamrinhu am haaretz. But rather we must then imply that it was these utensils were completed by an am haaretz. So Gemara says, nigmarin b'tahara kari laho. But our Mishnah said that they were completed in a status of being tahor. Okay? Amar Rabba Bar Shila, he said Amar Rav Matana, in the name of Rav Matana, Amar Shmuel, in the name of Shmuel. Le'olam de gamrin hu chaver. Now we're going to say that we're talking clearly in these examples of a utensil that was finished, completed on the part of a artisan that was a chaver. Umishum tsinura da am haaretz. And we're concerned about the chashash, the possibility of the spittle of an am haaretz on this item. Okay?
Wasn't during COVID.
What? The spittle of an amaretz is like the spittle of a zav.
All right. So wait a second. That wasn't his comment. Right? The nafal emat. when did it fall? Asks the Gemara. What is this? Haaretz looking over as he's watching him make the utensil and the,
Nice sneeze.
okay, and it's dripping out of his mouth, okay? Ilema mekame de la Gemara. If you're going to say it was before the artisan finished the item, lav manahu, it's not considered to be a valid Kelly. All right? Why? It's not finished, and therefore it's not subject to being tuma. Okay? Elabatar de gamra. So it must be after the artisan finished the object, the kli. But the Gemara says if he was already a artisan who was a chaver, right? Mizhar zahir baho. He would be careful about it. In other words, he's going to be shomer the article, the item, the utensil. So the Gemara then tells us, it therefore must be that it was before it was finished. V'dilma beidna de gamre adayan lachahi. Perhaps then, before the time that he actually completed the utensil, okay, it hadn't dried yet, it was still moist, and that's perhaps when the spittle could have kashesh.
This guy sneezed before he finished it, and the sneeze material had not yet evaporated.
Could be.
So it's wet when he finishes.
It says Negro with the heart.
What?
The Mishnah says, right, that's,
Yeah, but
It was.
it was.
it was, but it didn't get,
The case is problematic. They're trying to figure out how.
okay,
I mean,
I'll give you the, give you
spittle
the,
is so wet that it was Negro with the It's not Negro.
okay, wait a second. So what happens? All right, the artisan finishes the jug on his thingy there, okay, on his wheel. All right, it's still moist because he hasn't baked it in the kiln
No, we're
yet.
not talking about the kale being moist. We're talking about
spittle
the
being moist.
Spittle being
material from the guy's spittle
that also,
remains moist.
okay, all right,
It's
whatever. That's another possibility. Okay?
A
Adayim lachahi, it could be the spittle, it could also be the other. Tvila and immersion, yes. Haarev shemesh lo. But waiting till dark, no, that doesn't seem to be a requirement.
This is a new issue.
Okay, so what happens? Matnei, matniten delo Rabbi Elazar. This seems to tell us that our Mishnah cannot be according to the view of Rabbi Elazar. The Tanan who taught the following: Shvo feret shechatcha lechatat. If we have this reed tube, okay, that has been cut for the purpose of the chatas, right? Rabbi Eliezer Omer, he says, Yitbo miyad. You should immediately immerse it. Rabbi Yoshua Omer, Yitama, you should make it tameh,
Intentionally make.
okay? Va'achar kach yitbo. And then afterwards, you'll immerse it, okay? What happens? And why do we understand Rabbi Yehoshua's view? Okay, from another example. Vahavinan ba, okay, which we're going to get to momentarily. And we've discussed this, says the Gemara. The Chatchaman, who was the one that was cutting this reed tube. Ilema de Chatcha Chaver. Again, if we're going to say that it was cut by a Chaver, Lamali Tvila. Why then do I need whatsoever to immerse it? Ve'ela dechatcha am haaretz. But rather than it must be that it was cut by an am haaretz. Baha lema Rabbi Yoshua yitamei v'yitbo. And on that situation, shall we say that Rabbi Yoshua says it should purposely be come tamei, made tamei, and then immersed. Tamei b'kain. If that's the case, it's already tamei if it was cut by an Am Haaretz. Okay, it's already its current status
So why
existence.
do you have to
All right, so why then?
intentionally count it?
So why then does Rabbi Yeshua say you have to purposely make it come? Right? Va'amar Rava Bar Shila, he says, Amar Rav Matana, Amar Shmuel. Le'olam dechatcha chaver, he says, that the reed tube was cut by a chaver. Umishum tsinura da'am haaretz, and because of the chashash, again, of the spittle of the Am Haaretz. Dinafal, that it fell on it. Eimat, at what time? Ilema mekame de lechitcha, if we're going to say that it happened before it was cut. Halav manahu, again, same argument.
Still
It's
applies.
not a utensil, and it didn't come to a finished utensil. It's not subject to becoming tuma. Okay, ve'ele batar dechata. And if we say it's after it was cut, mizhar zahir ba, the chaver would be very careful with it. Le'olam mekame de lechitcha. Okay, perhaps then we're saying that it was done before it was cut. Dilma beidna dechatcha adayan lachahi. And again, here clearly we can say perhaps at that time that it was cut, the spittle was clearly still moist, and therefore, as a result, that's the problem. Okay? What?
Isn't this a fake statement? I mean, it's a suffix, whether he sneezed
Yeah,
on it,
but
it's
you're
a
not,
suffix, it's still
you're
wet.
talking about mechatis, which is the highest level of.
Okay,
pollution.
so the point is,
Suffix
plus
derived
you're already, it would be, if you didn't know what who the artisan was, that was the point. Then you'd have your
It's
sphinx.
not a sphinx.
That's why it's not.
Consider
Bishlem of the Rabbi Yoshua, Hainu deika, okay, Hekera Tzidukim. Okay, and here, by the way, I just want to again point out sensitivity to the translation. Bishlem of the Rabbi Yoshua. Then we can understand the position that Rabbi Yoshua is advocating. Hainu deika Hekera Tzidukim. Okay, I did not like Corin's translation here. They used it they've translated it as an act of recognition opposite the Saduki. I prefer Art Scroll's translation here of a demonstration, okay, that clearly against the Tzidukim. I felt that had more, not just more oomph.
more accurate.
More specifically, in other words,
Translate the words.
Yeah, okay.
Try to draw-
all right? So in other words, that it was a better demonstration in opposition to the attitude of the Tzidukim. Now, do we know what the attitude of the Tzidukim was?
Yes.
Well, we'll see in a moment in the Gemara, because it will spell it out more. Ditnan, as we were taught elsewhere in the Mishnah, mitam'in hayu et kohen hasorefet hapara, that they would purposely force the kohen, whose role it was to burn the paraduma, they would purposely make him tameh,
And then go to
and then have him go to mikvah, okay,
immediately burn it.
and then he would burn it.
You wouldn't wait
Lahotzi,
immediately.
right? Yeah, lahotzi miliban shel tzidukim. Okay, to remove the mindset of the tzidukim. Why? Shahayu omrim b'me'urvei shemesh haytan ne'eseh, whose opinion was that the person had to wait, okay, and wait till it's sundown, and then they could do
On the next day.
right? Then they could go ahead and do the burning, all right? That was the attitude of Tzedukim. Ela Rabbi Elazar, but Rabbi, to the view of Rabbi Eliezer, imamart b'shlema ba'alma, if you're going to say it's appropriate in general, ba'inin ha'erev shemesh, that we might need erev shemesh, in other words, till after sundown, hainu de'ika ekera l'tzidukim, and in this way we can say it's a demonstration in opposition to the view of the Tzedukim. Ella, Iamart Ba'alma. But if you're going to say in general, Lo Ba'inin Erev Shemesh, that we don't require, that we don't need to put it off till after sundown, Maihi Kerel Tzedukimika. Then what demonstration do we have by forcing the immediate Tuma,
But
whether
if
it's
we
for the,
didn't force,
yeah,
they could
by
say
the
he went
Tzedukim.
yesterday.
okay, the question, what demonstration against them would there be? Okay, now Amar Rav, says Rav, Asau Ketame Sheret. What did they do? They made him like a
And
Tame,
we're going back to the tube now.
right? They made it like a Tame Sheret. Ella, rather, Me'ata lo titma Adam. Okay, if that's the case, then you would say that he's not going to be
It's not going to transfer.
transferred to a person.
Handler.
Okay, Alma Tanya. Therefore, we learn the following: Chodcha umat bila. Okay, if they cut it and then they immerse it. Okay, ta'un tefillah. It's still, then they say that it needed immersion.
Person
No,
who
person.
cuts it and
And
the
the
person
person
who
who
puts
puts
it
it
in
In the
the
mikvah
mikvah,
has
both
to,
of them have to toivel first. That's what it means.
where
The
did you get,
cutter-
where do you
Okay,
get,
ha-
where do you
the
get that?
chotma, The cutter, utefillah, and the
Okay,
dunker,
Okay,
towing tefillah. Each of them require immersion prior to doing their task.
Chodcha umat bila, ta'un tefillah. Okay, all right, let me just make a note.
The cutter and the dunker.
Okay. Ta'un tefillah. Ve'ela rather, asau kitamei mate, but rather they make it parallel to a tamei
Rabbi,
mate.
the issue was, the first Havamina was that if you pretend
Yeah,
that the tube was tame because it had contact with the sheretz,
Sheretz, yeah,
so the sheretz, it becomes only a rishon, and a keli cannot make
like
a
another
human
keli by
tameh.
human tahon.
So, but the mitzias is that we make the people go to mikveh, so it could make them tame. So that the sheretz doesn't work.
Right,
So now we're going to move on and say, well, let's pretend it's
by
tamei
mace.
mace. But all of this is a theoretical.
Right,
It's
discussion.
all gezerah. We give it the status of. It's not actually touched
That's
by a
right.
dead person. We don't dig up a
Right,
body.
right,
Right.
right. Ihachi, tebei haza'at, shlishi shvi. If that's the case, if we're going to, let's say, assign it the
Right.
value of a
Tumas
tumas mace, then don't we need to say that it also requires
which fits in.
sprinkling on the third day and on the seventh day, right? Alma, therefore Tanya, chodcha, okay, umat bila ta'un tefillah. And that's therefore why we teach that it says the one who cut it and the dunker need to be. Tefillah in haza'at shlishi rishvi'i lo.
They don't
Are
need
we saying that they need immersion, but sprinkling on the third day and then the seventh day, that's not needed,
so it can't be tumas
Right.
mace.
so therefore can't be right. Ela asa'u kitamei meis b'shvi'i shelo. But rather we're going to apply it the status of as if it's the one who was tamei mace who had already gone to mikvah, okay,
And got spritzed.
got spritzed, right, but was still impure
He still
okay,
needed to
and
tefillah.
still needed further tefillah. That's the point. Kitzmei mace b'shvi'i shelo. The status, the time after they had sprinkled, immersed, still again. Vahatanya. But aren't we taught me'olam lo chitshu davar b'para? But aren't we taught that the rabbis never established any new practices regarding the para aduma beyond that which was defined in the Torah.
You
Okay.
can't have a chiddush unique to paraduma. You can.
It's
you can
only
have
based on what was
tradition
found.
Common to all
Okay.
kudshim.
Yeah,
So you
but I'm
can make
saying
them go to
that is
mikveh.
defined by the Torah.
Right, well, you can make them go to mikveh because that's
That's
a
not
chiddush
a-
that applies to all kudshim. But you can't make up a new chiddush only on para,
Paraduma.
which would be the Tumas Mason concept.
Could be. Amar Abai. So Abai says, Shalo Amru Kordum Mitamei Moshav. Okay, as a situation, says Abai, that they did not say that a shovel or a spade can convey tumas yeshiva, tumas when sitting. Okay, Keditanya, as we're taught, v'hayoshev al hakli. That's where it says that they're sitting on this utensil. Okay, for example, yachol kafa se'ah. It's possible that one might take a utensil that's used to measure a se'ah of, okay, of produce, and then turn that whatever it is, bucket, barrel, utensil over and sit on it via shavala, right? Okay, and sit on it. Okay, or tikav, or they might take another kind of utensil which is smaller than the se'ah, half of that, and take that utensil and turn that over and sit on it via shavala. Yehe tameh, then would he be tameh? Okay, Talmud Lomar, text tells us, Vayoshev al hakli asher yashav alav yitma, that one who sits on the utensil, which I'm going to say is normally used for sitting, okay, and then that becomes tameh. Right? Mi shemiyuchad liyeshiva yatzazeh she'omrim lo amod v'na'aseh melachtim. Okay, something that is particular, in other words, appropriate for sitting, as opposed to something that somebody may have just used temporarily. Okay, right. Okay, and where we normally would say, stand up and do your work.
What up? I need that.
Okay, okay. In other words, they could have grabbed something and used it as a seat. I'm thinking of a small step ladder, for example. Okay, that would be another kind of parallel example.
You could have a big argument over that.
Okay,
Because you normally stand on a step ladder and it would create Tumas Mason.
Right.
So that's not a good example.
okay. All right, so let's go on. Hakli mitzaref ma shebetocho lekodesh aval lo letruma. Okay, the utensil, okay, joins together that which is inside if the contents are done for a level of kodesh, but not for a level of truma. Minahani mili, how do we know this? What's our proof? Amar Rabbi Chanan, he says the Amar Krab, citing a pasuk. Kaf echad asara zahav malaya ketoret, he cites. All right. Hakatuv asau lechol ma shebekaf echad. The text adjusts it or fixes it to something that is all in the same kaf, in the same container at one time. Okay. Meitiv Rav Kahana, and Rav Kahana says, Hosif Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Akiva added the following statement: Hasolet, fine flour, v'hakatoret, incense, v'halavona, and frankincense, v'hagechalim, and the coals, she'im nagat fulyom b'miktato. Okay, that if we had contact with somebody who was a tvul yom, okay, they had just
And he touches the
right
hot coals.
all these things, even in part, pasal et kulo, he renders them all invalid. Vahad Rabbanan he. Okay, but don't we say this is the Rabbanan? Mimai, based on what? Midikatani Resha, from what it was taught at the beginning. Eid Rabbi Shimon ben Betera al Efer Chatat Shenaga Hatamei B'miksato. Okay, it's Rabbi Shimon ben Betera saying on the ashes of the Chatat that had contact with Tamei in part. Okay, Shetima et Kulo, that he made impure, right? All of it. Ukatani, and then it was taught. Hosif Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva added. Okay, and we're going to stop right there, and tomorrow pick up with the rest. Okay,
Like electricity.
Steve, can I get a lift? No, you're walking today.
I have a-
You have your car? Okay, so maybe Chaim will bring both of us.
So just
Are you going back to Wilmington now?
I don't have my car. Ordinarily, I would be more than willing.
You know anyone here that's from Wilmington in this place?
Chaim, do you have room for one more?
Yeah. Can you give me a list? All right, thank you.
Gentlemen, have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Okay.